I didn't have in my mind that I was going to be an international DJ or, twirling around the globe, really. Like, I really started out just digging for records, really. Like, just most of my record collection has come to life. Like, literally the things that I was surrounding myself with as a child and as a teenager and as a young adult became my reality. I think at one point I felt like a need to be like as good as the boys. It's not like, oh, you could just show up and look cute. I don't see being a woman as being a challenge. I honestly see it as being a blessing. I'm so grateful that I have a platform to share that so that I can inspire hopefully other women and other, people of all identities to be themselves. Like authenticity is the most important thing that you can be.
Natasha Diggs has been lighting up dance floors worldwide with considered DJ sets and undeniable energy, bridging eras and cultures through the power of her selection. A co-founder of the Soul in the Horn collective, Natasha has become an international tastemaker, inspiring dancers and diggers alike with her impeccable ear and fierce spirit. Natasha, welcome to London and welcome to the House Culture Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Simon. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
You're in London for your Soul in the Horn party tomorrow at Coco.
Yes.
And it's a great opportunity to catch up with you and discuss your story with the house culture community. Absolutely. And a common theme that I keep discussing with most established DJs is that most are not catapulted into the limelight. They're not overnight successes. There's normally a backstory. Sometimes it's, 10, 12, 14 years, and they've laid solid foundations which they can fall back on at any point should things, slightly go awry and whatever. What do you consider your foundations?
What do I consider my foundations? I think the foundation of who I am is like really just a love for music and music discovery. Like I really started out just digging for records, really. I didn't have in my mind that I was going to be an international DJ or, twirling around the globe, really. It wasn't something that I even thought about. I was really just digging because I loved the music and I was so fascinated with it, and it just kept me intrigued and it gave me life. And the more I started hearing things, the more I started discovering sounds, the more I wanted to hear new sounds and other sounds like it. And so I think really my foundations was just in my teenage bedroom, collecting this world of music and learning the stories and the history. With records, as you know, it's like they're like a library. It's like you have they're books. You get the liner notes, you get the credits, you get to discover the labels, the players, and then from there you create this whole story in music, right? And one thing that's been insane for me is that I feel like I always say that whole world of being a bedroom DJ, essentially, because it wasn't even at that point, I wasn't even yes, I saw DJs happening. I was like, oh, that would be cool. But it was really just a love and a passion for the music that was making me collect all these records. And I always say, most of my record collection has come to life. Literally the things that I was surrounding myself with as a child and as a teenager and as a young adult became my reality. I started working with so many of these people who it was just my surroundings. It was just this world, this inner world almost, because I was kind of an introvert and a shy, at that point in my life, I wasn't that was my vibe, And so I was just surrounded by this world of music, and that was my thing. And then as I've, grown in this world of music, I've worked with, Roy Ayers, Q-Tip, all these people who I was listening to all the time,
It's hard to imagine you as an introvert. So when was this and where was this? Where was this kind of early love and collection of...
this is, in my mom's house.
Right.
And in my teenage bedroom, my brothers are both upset because I still have my bedroom intact because there's half of my record.
And where in the States is?
This is in Arizona.
Okay.
So I grew up in Arizona, and also I think that also has a play in how I became who I am, because it was a much more isolated situation. It wasn't, and I was kind of in my own world, so I was kind of carving my own ideas around what I liked. It wasn't, super influenced by a club culture around me,
And when did you move to New York?
I moved to New York as soon as I finished school, and it was just, I knew I was gonna leave there. I knew I needed to be somewhere where there was more music culture, where there was more connection. Because, you know, in Arizona, it's like you're in the desert, really, you know,
Right.
in many ways, more than just the actual physical thing. Because there's a lack of the rich culture that a place like New York or London has. So.
And one of the things that I, you know, speaking to DJs that are really keen to establish themselves and establish their careers, and they put themselves under too much pressure, I believe, for it to happen too quickly for them, and they give up their jobs, and then they become really dependent on the income from DJing to sustain themselves. And I think, you know, like when I first started DJing, which I admit was many years ago and whatever, I mean, I had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
I had 2 jobs to fund my appetite for buying vinyl, and whatever money I earned, I would spend on records. And then I would occasionally DJ to earn more money, to spend more money on records, until I got to a point where I could sustain myself as a DJ. But I heard you were a teacher when you moved to New York.
Yeah.
So how did you balance your musical kind of appetite and passion with your professional career?
Yeah, I mean, it was fascinating because I was doing this for probably about 10 years where I was like teaching and DJing at the same time, right? And it was intense. I didn't sleep a lot, you know, especially as things picked up with my DJ world. Like I would literally be in the club on a Wednesday night, 4 a.m., like, you know, Erykah Badu DJing with me. Like, oh, Q-Tip's like, oh, because I had a residency with Q-Tip at this time when I was like my last couple of years of teaching.
You were still at school and you had a residency?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was still at school. I had a Monday night 45 party that I did, a Wednesday night party with Q-Tip. Like this particular night, he was like, oh, come back into the booze. I want you to introduce you to someone. I was like, oh, great. Yeah, but I just got off my set. I would always open and close the nights.
Right.
And I was like ready to go dance. I'm like, oh, gotta go back to the DJ booth. And he brings me back to the DJ booth and it's like, Erykah Badu's there. She's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do a surprise DJ set tonight. I'm like, great.
Right, okay.
And then so I have this whole other life. I was living literally a double life. Like,
and so did Q-Tip introduce you to that kind of circle? And
yeah, I mean, I was already kind of in it a little bit because I was in New York. I had a 45 party called Mobile Mondays that we did that I was a residency at. That started around like 2011, I would say.
Okay.
And there, like a lot of the DJs were coming. A lot of artists, DJs were coming there already.
And for the benefit of the people watching, listening, and whatever, explain to them who Q-Tip is.
I mean, Q-Tip is like a, you know, hip hop luminary, like, you know, Tribe Called Quest, producer, MC, and just, you know, one of the best producers there is in that world, like, and a friend, you know, and an amazing person.
Okay, so we'll come on to mentors later, but would you consider him a mentor in some way?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, super inspiring for me, like, you know, being, you know, asked to even do the residency with him was like such a big deal for me at the moment,
Sure.
you know, but because this was someone who I really like, I love Tribe, like, you know, that was growing up, that was my shit.
Right. Okay.
So,
I mean, it must be like a pinch me moment.
yeah,
It's just like, you know.
Definitely.
I remember that.
But then beyond that, what was so dope about DJing with Q-Tip is because he has records. Like, so he's, you know, he's deep in his record collection and we really vibed on a lot of the disco and like the rare stuff and so it really gave me freedom to do me. And I think in the same way, like, because I was also just, you know, catching my groove and finding my, like, it gave him freedom to do,
sure,
like, to go back into that realm. Because I think, you know, people know him as like this hip hop guy, but like has a deep collection of like.
Sure, because hip hop always draws influences from all genres of music. So what do you consider your breakout moment to be?
I feel like one of the breakout moments was really when I started doing the 45 party in New York, because within the first year of that, it just created a big buzz in the city. Like, it was like, everyone was like, who's this girl playing these 45s with, you know, with all the guys like coming around. Like, everyone was like coming to check out what was happening at Mobile Mondays. And it was like, at that moment, it was kind of like the start of the resurgence of like 45s as well. Because now you see like everyone has box sets of 45s coming out and it's a big market. But at that time, it was kind of forgotten. It was kind of like, you know, apart from like the Northern Soul, like type of like heads who are like really collecting the deep stuff, like no one was really playing on that format because it's kind of an annoying, like 3-minute format to play on, you know, sometimes.
I collected 45 since the 80s.
Yeah.
I've never been able to mix on 45. So I watched someone like, it's beyond a challenge for, you know, so, I was aware of you kind of like breaking through and your reputation growing. And I think for me, what gave you presence beyond New York and the kind of like the niche thing was the pandemic, and you just really kind of like rose to the occasion and when everyone was confined, and then you'd see this kind of click go on, and then you'd go back and then you'd start kind of dancing and you know, and just really aligning yourself to the records that you were playing, you know, lyrically or rhythmically and whatever. And I think that having that audience that was kind of captive. You know, the pandemic was terrible for many things, but I think some people really grew through that period. And
I have to say thank you to you too. And that was going to be my second moment of like, definitely that was a big breakout moment, because that kind of introduced me, like, whereas like the 45 party introduced me to New York, like that introduced me to the global audience. And it's an interesting thing because, you know, of course, during the first week of lockdown, all my DJ friends, we were all stressed. Like, everyone was like, what are we going to do? And I remember people were hitting me the first week. It's like, when are you going to go stream? When are you going to start streaming? I was like, damn, I just got off. I just had a break. You know, like, let me chill. And at that time, I had just kind of moved into my newer apartment. So I took a look that first month or so, like, to really get my old records in order, my room. And I was just naturally, like, in my house, like, listening to music, dancing around. I was like, oh, and then you were one of the first people who actually asked me to do a podcast during the lockdown, because you were doing the Glitterbox defective lockdown series. Erykah Badu had like her verses with Jill Scott, so I did an after party for her platform, and then D Nice like invited me to take over his platform. So it was like within 1 week, I had these 3 kind of big audiences like tuned into me playing records in my bedroom, dancing around in my record room, and especially like with your stream, it introduced me to this UK audience. And I was doing a weekly Soul in the Horn stream after that, introduced me to whole Brazil audience. So like when we came out of pandemic, I didn't realize when I started traveling around, people were like, oh, I've been watching you. Like, oh, you gave me life. You like, to this day, people are still like, you saved my life. You gave me life.
It was really needed. It was an escape from, all of the kind of, media attention on, you can't go out, keep your distance. We had a shortage of toilet roll in the UK because people were panic buying toilet, which is insane. And then when you think about it, and then, you'd go home, you'd switch it on, there would be, and you probably now appreciate the UK people love their soul, their funk, their disco, their house music. So,
it was awesome.
And you were a breath of fresh air, coming into people's homes. So.
Thank you. I remember that first stream I did for you. It was like I did all 45s. I feel like maybe a couple of 12 inches, and it was fun to just do me, and like I had no expectations for what it was, but it was so well received, and people really like appreciated that I was just in my bedroom digging through my records.
And we were the same as we employed 40 people. Yeah. We had lots of, we had festivals planned and parties planned and releases planned, and obviously it all ground to a halt. And we were just like, what are we going to do? We can't just sit and do nothing. Yeah. So actually sometimes when your backs are most against the wall, you come up with scenarios and you work things out. And we decided really quickly to do a 12-hour set from the Ministry of Sound, and we streamed it, and we were one of the first people to do it, and because of that we caught people's attention, and we just had to, from that moment on, it was like, when's the next one, and you have to kind of make it interesting for people, because you can't, so we did glitterbox ones, we did classic ones, we did defective ones, and it was a stressful period, but it actually defined us in a really tough moment in time. So I remember it well.
Yeah. Just one last thing on that. Like, I remember during that time, when I was stressed out, I was like, in that moment, I remember saying to myself, I just trust that during this time, I'm going to create more abundance and more beauty in the world than I could ever have done if I was just traveling and doing my gigs like I was planned to. And I just said that to myself, and then it just happened. I didn't know how it was going to happen or what. I just believed it. I just knew that this was an opportunity to create joy in people's lives when they needed it the most, And coming out of the pandemic, it launched me to a greater audience who was like excited to see me, like glad,
Yeah, I hear that. So
it was very positive.
We touched on it a couple of minutes ago. Who do you consider to be your mentors?
Oh my gosh. I mean, so many people like so many of my colleagues, like, who I've worked with over the years from people like Q-Tip or DJ Scratch or Just Blaze, who I did the residency with, people who I learned from and challenged me in the booth and like, just always were trying to one up like each other. But also Prince, Roy Ayers, Shire Khan, Sly Stone, like these are the people who I consider like mentors in the way that they live their lives and the ways that they express themselves and in the ways that they created communities, So yeah, it's far reaching. It's like the people I've worked with a lot of times, and even the people now who I mentor people as well, and they teach me stuff, So it's like it's both ways, as I'm sure you know as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sometimes you don't know somebody who you're really close to is actually mentoring you because you're just soaking up their vibes and their advice, and you get the kind of, you think, oh, that's a cool idea, and then, you go off and you action it and whatever. And you look back, I look back at, friends that introduced me to music all of the time. And, they're really important in my life. And in many ways, they were mentors in not in an obvious way, but just in a subliminal way. I think that referral thing within music is really important, So,
Absolutely.
So I just wondered, what were your challenges as a woman in the music industry, in the DJ world?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't see being a woman as being a challenge. Honestly, I honestly see it as being a blessing because there was a need and a want for more femininity, for more like of that energy to come in, and it was, and I don't know who can make a dance party is only a dance party if there's girls dancing, right? It's like proper,
Right.
like, I mean, not every, but like, so who can make us dance better than one of us? Like, we know what it takes to touch that. And for everybody, it's just a divine feminine energy that people need and know. And yes, there has been like obstacles along the way, but even those I consider as blessings because they made me stronger. They made me, I think at one point I felt like a need to be like as good as the boys. So like I when I was doing like the 45 party, it was like a rooms full of guys and like, so they were not taking, it's like, it's not like, oh, you could just show up and look cute and like, that's it, like, no, they wanted you to know your shit. You had to come with something that is like, ooh, oh, you got that record. Oh, like, oh, the way you put that in, like, oh, like, cause we would literally battle at the end of the night. We'd be like 3 for 3 records, like, and you had to come with, and I would practice like, right when I come back from teaching school.
Right.
I would spend my time like getting my routines ready. Like, it was like very serious, but that was that feeling of like needing to prove myself at that moment. But now that I've kind of come into my own, like I realize that I never really, yes, I'm grateful I have that experience and that I can hold my own against anyone at that point, but I also realized that when I was able to embrace more of the feminine side of myself and like be able to be comfortable, like dancing and being free and expressing myself through, yes, the music, but also the clothes, the dance, the everything, like that is a gift, and I think, so I don't see it as a challenge as much as a blessing. And I think I'm so grateful that I have a platform to share that so that I can inspire hopefully other women and other, people of all identities to be themselves, like authenticity is the most important thing that you can be. So, even when you're facing those adversities or, people who are like downplaying what you're doing, it's like, you have to stick to your truth, and that will always shine through in the end. And I think, it's been a testimony to my, like how my career has evolved, like the more I become myself, the further I'm able to go.
Sure. Okay, so I consider you quite a rare breed in these times because you can effortlessly hop across multiple genres from soul to salsa to jazz to funk to disco to house. And that doesn't seem to be a thing for many DJs in the world. So is that a New York thing, firstly? How do you organise your music and how do you prepare for each set? Because, I mean, every environment is a different challenge, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is, like, I definitely know a lot more New York DJs can go open format and play a lot of different things. I mean, and that's because, like, our upbringing, like, I played the club nights. I played all kinds of nights, you know, like it wasn't just like, oh, like I'm at the house party and like now I'm playing exactly what I want. Like I was, you know, I went through the rounds of like, you know, playing the top 40 nights and the whatever different kinds of
You
nights.
did that as well, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like I've done it. And that was all great experience because you start to understand what makes a party, like, you know, what resonates with different types of people, you know? And yeah, it's all of that experience has been great. But also like, I don't know. I'm a multidimensional like kind of person. Like I love all kinds of music. It would be boring for me to like just play one genre of music for the rest of my life. I would probably die inside, you know? So, so I think it was also just a necessity of just like putting things together and, you know, organization and prepping for sets. Like I always say the best preparation I do for sets is to kind of like just to meditate, to like be present, like, cause in any moment, the thing I've learned over the years is like, you can prep a set immaculately, right? And then you can get to the club and it's a totally different vibe. It's a totally different situation with the, you know, the equipment. Like, you know, there's been cases where my, you know, digital stuff stopped working and I had to be ready to play. Like
I saw that. I experienced that, yeah. In Croatia, I think the deck stopped working, and you just went to sevens,
I just went,
like off the cuff.
Yeah,
so
you just had to be ready for that. And
right.
But I think that's the most important we can do is like knowing that no matter what, you're going to be ready in that moment, you know?
Yeah.
Because all that prep like doesn't mean anything when you get in the room. It's about so much more than you as a DJ. It's about the crowd. It's about the weather. It's about the political situation. It's about how people are feeling that day. It's like, it's all of those things. And you have to be in the moment to be able to like read that and like play off of that as well, you know? So, and yeah, I think that answered.
I mean, you know, having such an extensive collection of knowledge, you know, how hungry are you to discover new music? How do you discover new music?
I mean, all kinds of ways at this point, you know, still records and record stores and flea markets and digging and, you know, through the internet now, like Instagram and amazing, like, you know, just also through my colleagues when I'm on the road, I'm constantly just like discovering new music, like people are playing and YouTube. Oh my God. Like I feel like any way to discover there's a plethora of ways now. Like before, I feel like it was more limited. Now it's like, you have every way. And
you have Shazam now.
Shazam! Oh my God, what a gift.
So, yeah, it is. I mean, you know, how did we survive?
How did we even, like, but that was also exciting because it made it more special when you found it. Like, I will never forget the feelings of, like, discovering the record, like, finding a record in a fucking pile of like, a whole, like, crates and crates of record, finding that one record that had that sample that I've been, oh my God.
Right, yeah.
There's nothing quite like that. Now, Shazam has kind of taken a little bit of that joy away, but it's still amazing. It's still amazing that people have the opportunity to spread amazing music.
Yeah, there's a film here, actually. It's a Northern Soul movie where, I mean, in Northern Soul days, they used to cover up the labels. So you couldn't even look over the decks and find out what the record... It was the same, right?
Like all the park jams, all those... If you find those old records, like...
Oh, they've scratched out. Yeah.
Nobody can know.
Right. So there's this scene in the movie where someone's in a record store, secondhand someone there, and digging through the record, and they put on this record, and they went... It's like they found gold. Yeah. They'd struck gold because they found this record that one of the top Northern Soul DJs was playing and nobody knew what it was. And that DJ got so upset because they exposed that record that people used to travel hundreds of miles for him just to hear that record. And now, obviously, everything's just global and it's online and whatever. So I guess that elusiveness is missing from the culture a little bit. So...
But there's always going to be new, that it just makes it so there's always going to be new stuff. Like now It's always like about finding the new hot thing, or like
Sure.
the new promo that like nobody else has, or like the new exclusive. I'm blessed because I get sent a lot of stuff as well by a lot of my friends who are amazing producers, DJs, and whatever. So.
You mentioned residencies and your early residencies, and you obviously have Soul in the Horn and Dance is Life.
Yes, exactly.
How important do you feel are residencies?
Residencies are so important. I mean, for so many different reasons. I mean, I think one, they give you a consistency, like a place where you can consistently do you, like where people can kind of learn what your style is, and you get to build the vibe, really, like Soul in the Horn we're just celebrating 10 years this year. And I think back on it and I'm like, wow, like it's something like we really created from the ground up, and we got to really shape the sound of it. And, in the beginning, especially, it was really the whole theme of Soul in the Horn was about music around horns across all genres. So they had this musicality to it. So like the guest DJs had to have a challenge of like, play all those songs with the horns in it, whether it's disco or Afrobeat or hip hop or house or whatever it is. Like, you had to find the songs with the horns in it. So it made people think outside the box of how they usually put together music, right?
Okay. And I never ever considered that. Yeah. So everything had to have a horn section or some, right, okay.
In the beginning, that was like more of the theme. Now it's kind of a little bit more open. But it was like, we were like 90% like, horn focused.
Right.
Because that was like the common thread, and that was like kind of the theme. And we always had the horn section and whatnot. But, and with Dance is Life, again, it's like, you get to choose your intentionality behind the event. You get to put your energy into like what you want it to be about. So Dance is Life has been very much about inspiring people to move, inspiring people to dance together, inspiring accessibility for all kinds of communities. We have a huge initiative around, accessibility for our disabled communities, our deaf, dumb, and blind communities, like so that everyone has the opportunity to experience dance and movement. So it's a beautiful thing to create a residency so people know what they're coming to, like, and you build the vibe and you attract the tribe, so I feel like that's what's so important about residencies.
Okay. I mean, I do think that you can create a community through musical consistency and experiential consistency via residency. When it's a guest every week, they don't know what's gone before them, they don't know what's coming next. And then, tunes can be really established by a DJ or associated with a club. I mean, the amount of records that are associated with the Paradise Garage or the Funhouse and whatever, and those DJs are associated with those records. And the stories of Larry Levan playing a record 5 times in a night to go, this is my record, And
I definitely had, for every single one of these residencies, there's like definitely records that were mine,
Right.
No one else who was even in the residency would like, or other DJs who would even touch those records because they're like, oh, that's a Natasha record, And I love that.
I mean, to have the courage to play a record. I mean, I heard, the Larry Levan played a record and he cleared the floor. Yeah. And he just put it on again. Heartbeat, and he just put it on again. It's like,
that's what it's about. It's like making something yours and having the gusto to like really just to claim it, like I love, like people are so obsessed with like, oh, we got to play a totally different set I love to play. When I find a record that I love, I will play it every week or even sometimes multiple times at the beginning and the end. Right. My sets until everybody knows all the words. Because if I feel so passionately about it, I'm like, everyone needs to know this. And I'm not going to stop playing it until everyone knows it. And it's stuck in everyone's head.
Cool. So I saw on your Instagram stories that you visited the David Bowie exhibition at Victoria and Albert. It's not at the main Victoria and Albert Museum.
It's at the Storehouse.
It's at the Storehouse.
Which is really cool.
And and Bowie, like Prince, who's sitting behind us and whatever, they had an iconic look with almost every kind of like musical phase that they went through. And, you spend a lot of time on your appearance and you're very chameleon. Like every time I see you, you seem to have a different vibe going on. How important do you think, how intrinsic is fashion with music in your opinion, especially in these social media obsessed times?
Yeah. I mean, apart from just social media obsessed, I feel like, at the time when Prince was doing it or Bowie, like, before social media, it was still it's for me, it's like one and the same. Fashion, music, art, it all goes together. It all is, if we're here as humans having this sensorial experience and we can have an auditory experience, can have a visual experience. If I could enhance like the rooms I play in with like smell and taste, I would do that too. Because I want people to have the whole experience of like what this feels like, what this music looks like visually too. You know, it's like it creates a whole package kind of vibe, you know? And for me, that it just feels natural to me, and it feels like what I would want to do just to enhance the experience, you know? I don't think if you don't feel called to it, it's not like you have to do it.
Sure.
I feel like it should be something that's natural or organic, or that you feel like you want to do if you want to do, and then why not? Like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of feel there is like a overemphasis on DJs to dance like crazy behind the decks. Well, you know, and like, no one wants to see me dance behind the decks because I'm a terrible dancer. I never saw DJ Spinner or Tony Humphries or Kenny Dope dance behind the decks. So some people are great, and you add to the musical experience by dancing and being very flamboyant behind the decks. But some people just like to be known for the great music that they play and the selections that they present to people.
Amazing. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like there's no one way to do it. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has their strengths and their superpowers and the things that make them who they are. Like, and, you know, ideally it's like, you know, if I'm dancing, it's just because I feel the music and I want people to feel the music too. I'm not doing it necessarily as like a look at me thing, but it can be like that, but hopefully it's inspiring people to move in their own bodies.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's for me more important than anything. It's just inspire movement.
You know, you read quite frequently online the pressure that everyone feels to be a content creator. Yeah. Do you feel that presence, or
the pressure of that?
Yeah.
It can be at times, but you know what I mean? Like, life for me, like, my life is a movie. Like, it really literally is. I say that in the most non-arrogant way. Like, I have amazing friends, amazing people in my life. I get to play music for dance floors. It's like, I don't think there needs to be so much emphasis on the content creation part if you're just living your life. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Somebody put a camera on and roll, and then there's your content. Like, you know,
so you don't consciously create content. You just document what you're doing, and that becomes the content.
So, because I think authenticity is your greatest asset. You know what I mean? Like, when you're in your authentic self, you don't have to try so hard. And yes, it's cute to put some thought and energy into, like, if you have a content piece or like a certain message that you want to get across, I think that's great. Like, it has to be authentic to you. You know, it could need to be like, because you saw someone else doing it, I need to do this. So it has to be authentic to your brand or to what you're trying to convey, you know?
Sure. I mean, you know, we did a post a couple of months ago on Moody Man on the House Culture Instagram account, and it got an amazing reaction. And I think I remember commented, when you're that authentic, you don't need to create content. You just simply are the content and whatever. So I think some people, you see DJs sometimes trying to be overly funny and become comedians, and they're not, you don't follow them to be comedians and whatever. You follow them because you think they're going to introduce you to great records. And sometimes that creates a little bit of a disconnect, and then they don't get the reaction that they want. And everyone talks about the algorithm not connecting, but maybe it's not the algorithm. Maybe it's just not connecting with your audience, you know? I see that. I mean, every time I see you look like Natasha Diggs. You act like Natasha Diggs. It's like you must fall out of bed and be Natasha Diggs. So it just must come, authentically natural to you. So yeah, collaborations and connections. I mean, how do you? I believe that people grow and evolve and learn through collaborations. And you seem to collaborate. You initially said you're quite a shy person, which I think we're struggling to understand at the moment. But how do you go about your collaborations in music?
Yeah, I mean, it's very organic for me. Like, again, like, I just trust that the right people who I'm supposed to work with or supposed to, collaborate with are going to come into my life. And I've been blessed with that in so many ways, the people who I vibe with, the people, my barometer for most of my life is how fun is it? How fun does it feel? Is it fun? Like, do I enjoy, being around this person? Do I enjoy like us working together? And if so, let's continue. Like, it doesn't have to be this serious, like overly thought out process. I feel like when you're vibrating on a certain frequency, you're going to connect with certain people on that frequency, and the right people are going to come into your life that you need to collaborate with. And that's how most of like my musical collaborations have come about. That's how most of my like, DJ collaborations,
Sure.
all of that has just come about in a more organic way. I'm blessed in that way. And it's not an overly contrived thing,
Okay.
I'm not like seeking out like, yes, I'm sure there's certain people who I would like to at some point collaborate in a certain way. And I can, if that's meant to be, I trust it's going to happen. I'm not going to just stress over that,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's you touch on a really good point, actually, because I think there is a spirit and an energy in music which organically just connects people.
Absolutely.
I don't think people really appreciate how important music is in people's lives. It's like, obviously I've been fortunate enough that it's become, something very intrinsic in my life, and a 40-year career involved in music. But it's never lost on me that, people spend more money than they have to buy music, to go to an event, to see their favorite act in the concert and whatever. And music is continually just keeps, giving to the world. So cool. A bit of a curveball question. Okay. Analog or digital?
Oh, analog.
Right.
Analog all day. I don't know. It's just, of course, I embrace all formats of music at this point in my life. I don't want to carry around crates of records so much. I will once in a while, but it has to be in the right situation. And so I'm grateful for digital. But yeah, from a personal standpoint, like, nothing feeds me more than than going through my records, like looking at the covers, being like, "Oh, I'm excited to play that." Like, there's so much stuff I have never ripped digitally, so the way I play with records is very different to how I play digitally, and it's just a connection because that's how I started all of too. So for me, I love the whole story of a record.
Sure.
Beyond because I am like that
Sure.
visual, like it has all the elements for me,
Yeah, and I think that playing music on vinyl is more of a kind of visual art form.
Yeah.
And you can get super creative digitally, and I think the format that you play a record on isn't really important as long as the people in front of you are having the best time ever. But I think, with collectability and music being art, it's a proud possession in your life, and if your friends come round and you like to just maybe just go, I've got this record, you need to check it and whatever, and it's a conversation stimulator.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can remember where I got most of the records I have.
Sure.
I cannot tell you where I got that file or that digital or whatever. Like, there's no real story to it. At this point, it's just like I'm inundated with files, and half the time the files are like track 1. Like,
right, okay.
Great, I have no idea what that track 1 is.
Yeah.
Sounds great, and I'm going to play it, but there's no information about, like, who made it, who wrote it, who played on it, like the artwork. Like, there's just a lot missing, I think, from digital formats now. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I subscribe to that for sure.
Yeah.
So, you've recently started. I mean, how long have you been producing music for?
Maybe like the last 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Right. And what's a modern day artist who is constantly on the road touring? What's the challenges about making music when you're?
Yeah, I have not gotten it down to the art like a Louis Vega or like.
Yeah, but he's
who are aliens, like who just.
He is like an alien,
constantly, yeah. I don't know how that's done, but I will say I just it's about I find that I need to carve out more time to be at home and to really sit with sit in the studio and just focus on that more. Like I haven't gotten the art down where, I mean, I do record on the road here and there when I'm in Brazil. I love to record in Brazil, and certain places I have studios that I work out of. But yeah, it's really just about carving out time more, you know,
Sure.
which I'm not always the best at.
And I think, most people that have successful touring careers, if they're not known for their prowess as a selection and their knowledge of music, and will have made a great record at some point to stimulate the demand for them to get the bookings, etc. And then once they get into that cycle, they don't seem to take the time out to make another record and nourish the scene, and and that probably, with my A&R hat on at when I owned a record label, was the most frustrating thing for me, because most DJs would go, but I'm making crazy money on the road, and there's a misconception that you don't make money from music in these times. But there are plenty of people that do make good money.
Absolutely.
And I know the challenges are there because the amount of music that's being released.
Sure.
But if you make an exceptional record, I believe it normally finds a way.
Absolutely.
It may just take a little bit longer, maybe a more challenging road. So if you could manifest your future, what would your ambitions be?
I mean, I think continuing doing what I'm doing, but even expanding on it, I'm working on my own record, which is more of like a producer, like Quincy Jones type-esque record, which will span a lot of different kinds of genres and different vibes. And so I'm super excited about that. I think creating more elements of a live show around that will be exciting for me. Expanding into realms of fashion and wellness and other parts, I think, and ultimately I think for me, it's like about finding the balance, I love this life. I'm so grateful to be able to share music with people. It's my purpose and it's my service, and I love it. And I also want to find the balance of having my farm life and my family life and that. So I think that is, and I really believe I can have it all. So I feel like finding, continuing to create movements, music, art, fashion, all of those things. And then also continuing to find the balance in personal and, professional and outside life, because it is a very, you're giving a lot, you're serving a lot of, you're giving a lot of energy to the world. And it's so beautiful. I love it. But I think all artists, we all need a place to replenish and a place to, to charge up again. So finding that balance, that I can see as my future, And
I think that a lot of people don't really appreciate the energy it takes to be a touring DJ, planes, hotels, going to a gig, 4 hours, 3 hours sleep, 2 hours sleep, sometimes no sleep, playing next to you, etc. And it takes it out of you. And I think, if you get that balance and replenish yourself and take time out to do that, which some people are able to do, others seem to be less so, but it is an amazing career. And like you say, if you think it's your purpose to introduce the world to great music, which I felt I did, whether it be serving records in a record store, to customers, to promoting records as a promotions guy, to signing records as an A&R guy, and then owning a label. I felt that I was introducing music that I thought was important to the world to a bigger audience. And there's nothing better.
It's beautiful
in the world. Yeah,
and it lasts forever. Those offerings that you've given to the world, continues to be appreciated and discovered by new generations. And I'm sure some of those records are still being synced on in commercials and who knows what else. It's an ongoing, a thing,
Cool. And so I just wanted to say it's been great talking to you. It's great knowing you for as long as I've done. Have an amazing gig tomorrow at Coco, and continue to be Natasha Diggs, because you're much needed in the world. So,
thank you, Simon.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
House culture.